Hey, LCC friends and family. Lead Minister Brandon Bogue here with another midweek moment. Almost everybody gets uncomfortable when we start talking about money. In particular, when we start talking about their money. Lord knows I would rather talk to you about almost any other subject under the sun than to talk about money and finances with you. And so maybe you've been dreading this particular topic in this discussion of why we do the things that we do here within the church. And I want you to know, before we ever get into any other more of this, I completely understand why you might get uncomfortable talking about tithes and offerings. But suppose that I told you that maybe, just maybe, you're looking at it the wrong way. Let's talk about why we do that. I can remember as a kid, whenever my family and I went to church, which was every single Sunday, they would pass the offering around, and occasionally my mom and dad would let myself or my brother be the ones to place the family check in there, or maybe they had a stack of dimes or something like that we could throw into the offering plate. And it was always something that I was excited to do. I felt like I was a part of something really cool. It was far less exciting, though, to me whenever I was given some money and my dad told me that part of that money that I was given needed to go as an offering. I was way less excited to talk about it then. The act of tithing and offering is one that actually predates the church itself by a large margin, in fact. As the nation of Israel was getting ready to take the promised land, as God was establishing this brand new nation here in this land, he had said that all the tribes of Israel, all 12 of them, were going to be given a portion of that land for themselves, that they would be able to establish it, that they would be able to grow their families on that, they'd be able to raise livestock and build a life for themselves, that all of these tribes were going to receive this land as an inheritance, except for one tribe. The Levite tribe was actually set apart. God himself actually put them in charge of maintaining the tabernacle, of seeing to the temple when it was eventually constructed, to making sure that it was all clean and organized, and all the different things that would go on there would run smoothly. They were also set aside to be teachers of the law. They were involved in all of the different sacrifices that people would do throughout the year. Basically, any and all things faith-related to the Israelites was going to be handled by the tribe of Levi. Thing of it is, that didn't really leave them a whole lot of time to do things like grow their own food, raise their own livestock, or do any of the other things in establishing and building their own lives. And so God decided that some, not all, but some, a portion of the tithes and offerings that people would give would go to support those tasked with the spiritual development of the nation. And then, even then, the Levites themselves were required to tithe from what they had been given. In Numbers chapter 18, verse 26, it says, "Moreover, you shall speak and say to the Levites, when you take from the people of Israel the tithe that I have given you from them for your inheritance, then you shall present a contribution from it to the Lord, a tithe of the tithe." On top of that, the nation of Israel was going to have to confront a problem that has been a constant throughout history, and that being how to take care of those who are less fortunate. It was common, actually, and it was established by the law of God, that when an Israelite person would harvest their field, they would always leave a corner of it unharvested. And that way, those who were less fortunate, those who were poor, those who were downtrodden, those who were just going through a rough patch right now, would be able to go and harvest that food for themselves, and then they would be taken care of. But every 3 years, it was also common practice that they would set part of the tithe towards going and supporting and assisting others to help get them back on their feet. Deuteronomy chapter 14, verses 28 and 29 say this, "At the end of every 3 years, you shall bring out all of the tithe of your produce in the same year and lay it up within your town. And the Levite, because he has no portion or inheritance with you, and the sojourn, the fatherless, and the widow who are within your town shall come and eat and be filled, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work your hands do." These were just some of the ways that the tithes and the offerings that were brought would go to benefit those who had need amongst them. But more than any of that, the tithes and offerings that the Israelites would bring were really meant to be an act of worship. I say that because at its very core, tithes and offerings are an act of trust. When we bring our gift, when we bring our offering to God, it is our way of saying that we are going to give God this amount of our income, trusting that He is going to see to our needs with what remains. Understand, tithes and offerings were never meant to be a burden to us. They're not some sort of spiritualized bill that we're required to pay. Rather, they are a very tangible way for us to place our hope and our trust in God by relying on Him to see to it that our needs are met. In Christianity, we talk all the time about our need to trust in God. And by giving tithes and offerings, we are literally putting our money where our mouth is. When we come to give our tithes and offerings to God, we should do so with a worshipful heart, trusting that God is going to meet our needs. Offerings and tithes that are collected both here and in countless other churches go to really all sorts of different things. From things as simple as building maintenance and making sure that the place that we gather to worship is taken care of, to going and supporting missions, orphanages, all sorts of other things that are helping benefit people all around the world. A portion of it, yes, does go to pay for the staff and their salaries, but also a portion of it goes to helping people right here in Lexington who are just facing a hard time right now. When we give our tithes and our offerings, ultimately we are trusting that God is going to use it to further His kingdom, and He's also going to make sure that our needs are met along the way. It is meant to be a beautiful act of worship, and that's why Paul himself tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7, each one of you must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. Yes, it's uncomfortable to talk about money. Yes, it's uncomfortable for us to talk about offerings and tithes. But when we go to give that gift, when we go to lay a portion of our finances or our time or whatever else it is that we're trying to give over here, we are doing so trusting that God is going to use that to glorify His kingdom. That's why we do that. It's hard to believe that we are almost done with the month of May already, so hopefully you've had a chance to pick up Small Batch Disciple Making by David Sunday. This is our book of the month this month. Again, this book is all about finding a way to help lead others in discipleship. It's a way for us to find a rhythm and a practice in our own lives in very small ways. Too often we tend to think of disciple making as something that's very strenuous, that's very time-consuming and that sort of stuff. And so David actually gives us some practical tips and guidelines as to how to make it a part of our normal rhythm and routine in our lives. It's a great book. It's a good read. It is a little different than all of our other books of the month, but I think it's well worth your time to read Small Batch Disciple Making by David Sunday. This has been your Midweek Moment. Take care of yourselves and each other.